The first thing I noticed about the box was the smell. 70-year-old paper does not smell good. It's not pleasant. Um, it is what time smells like when time has been sitting still in cardboard. And the letters themselves were fragile. The folds were splitting. There were over 500 of them, and I knew the second I opened the box that I had a problem before I had a writing project. I had to get them out of the box, and I had to do it without losing them. I'm Julie Bonner. In the last episode, I told you the story of the 8-week pearl hunt, the chapter that the book takes its name from. This is the first method episode, and it's where the whole project started for me before I had any idea I was going to write a book. You may be facing a similar issue with your family history on how to preserve something so precious. If you have a box of old family letters in the closet right now, and the paper is starting to feel like it won't survive another decade, listen to this episode. Because before you organize anything, before you log anything, before you write anything, you have to make sure the letters still exist in a form that can outlast the paper they're written on. And that means digitizing them. The first thing that I did before I transcribed a single word was photograph some of the letters. Especially, I wanted to save my father's letters to his dad in World War II. And I want to tell you specifically about my father's letters. My dad, Cecil, was 9 years old in 1946, and he wrote little notes to his dad, and they were included in his mother's letters. Sometimes a sentence, sometimes a paragraph. My father is gone now, and that handwriting is one of the only things I have left of him as a child. I photographed every single one of those before I did anything else. The handwriting was the artifact. The words were almost secondary. If I lost the paper, I wanted to have the image. I also photographed some of the envelopes, because it has old postmarks on it, the stamps at the time, that sort of thing. I wanted those too. So before you transcribe anything, take pictures. A camera phone is just fine. Get the front, get the back, get the envelope, save them. I also recommend saving them by date and doing a numeric date. Don't put May as the word or September as the word. Use 9 for September or 5 for May, because that will put them into numerical order in your filing system. And on top of that, especially if you have a lot of letters being written back and forth like I did, because these letters were written between my grandparents in World War II, they were writing each other almost every day, and a lot of times they had written each other on the same day. So I would have a date, and then there would be a file for Vera and a file for Woodrow because they had written each other on the same date. Then came the transcription, 548 letters. And I'm going to tell you right now, I did not type them. I dictated them. And the tool that I used was Speechnotes. At the time, it was free. And even if they start charging for that, I'm sure you can find a free version or a free software that does this. And it ran in a web browser. I opened it, I clicked the microphone, I read it out loud, and it transcribed what I said into a text file. That's it. And it changed everything about whether this project was ever going to come to an ultimate end of writing a book. Because I had the idea I wanted to do that at the time, but I had to get through that transcription process. So if you sit down to type out 500 letters or more, you won't finish. It will take a long time, and you'll burn out somewhere around letter 40. Typing requires you to look at the paper, look back at the keyboard, look at the screen, the back of the paper. It's over and over and over for hours. And with fragile letters, you're handling them constantly. You're touching them, opening them, etc. Your eyes will get tired, your back will get tired, and the letters get more fragile every time you turn them over. With voice transcription, the letter sits flat on the desk, you read it out loud, you touch it once, and then you put it away. The transcription happens in your voice in real time with your eyes staying on the page. So here's the workflow I used, and you can copy it exactly. Open your tool in a browser, click the microphone, read the letter out loud, one sentence at a time, naturally, the way that you would read it to someone else in the room. And the tool will transcribe it as you go. When you finish a letter, you copy the transcribed text into a Word document, save it with the file name of that letter, same as the photograph, same name, just a different extension. Then you take a break. Then you do the next one. I did not do 500 plus letters in a week. I did not even do them in a month. It took me 2 years, basically, to get through 548 letters. I received them in late 2016. I transcribed letters in 2017 and 2018. The point is not the speed, though. The point was getting them all into a format that would last. Now, I will tell you, speech-to-text software will have quirks. So, for example, my grandfather called my grandmother darling constantly at the start of letters, in the middle, in the end, and Speechnotes did not always hear it correctly. It heard darling as sterling. It heard starlings. It heard rolling. Some letters started with my sterling Vera. Some started with my starlings Vera. None of these is what he said, okay? Also, my uncle, Errol, who is the second son, my father was the oldest, but the second son, his name is Errol, Errol, and every single time the software heard it as arrow, Arrow. So I was constantly changing that to his actual name. And here's the unexpected gift of that. These misrecognitions told me something. They told me about how often my grandfather said these words. He talked about Errol often. He talked about my dad often. He wrote these pet names for Vera often. And that, as you hear it repeatedly and see it constantly misspelled, it's kind of like, oh, he said it again. He said it again. This wartime correspondence from 1945 to 1946 took me about 2 years, working in batches, in evenings and on weekends. I have many other letters I've transcribed, but I typed them out. So, yay for technology advances. This is a slow project, and it's meant to be slow. You're sitting with the words of your family, and you are reading them out loud in your own voice into a microphone. You hear what they sounded like through your own throat. You hear the rhythm of how they wrote. You start to know them in a different way. I knew both my grandparents, but this gave me a different prism to look at them through. By letter 400, I could pick up an unsigned page and tell you whether my grandmother or my grandfather had written it, just from the cadence, just from the handwriting. There's something almost ceremonial about it. You're speaking the words back into the world 70 years after they were written. You're giving them a new voice. If you have a box of fragile family letters, here's what to do this week. Photograph the most fragile ones first, or the most sentimental ones to you. You will have your own ideas about that. The phone camera is fine. Get the front, the back, the envelope, save them somewhere safe. Then open Speechnotes or some tool like it. Speechnotes is free, or at least it was when I was using it. Read the first letter out loud, save the transcription with the same file name as the photograph. That is preservation. Everything else in the series, the folder system, the master log, the writing, comes after the preservation. And the unexpected part of preservation, the part that nobody tells you, is this. When you read your family letters out loud, you are also reading them for the first time in your own voice. You learn them by speaking them. The transcription is not just a file on a hard drive. It's a way of meeting the people who wrote them. In the next episode, I'm going to show you what to do with all those transcribed letters once you have them, and the 3-folder system that turns a pile of files into something organized enough to write. So subscribe so that the next episode shows up. And if you haven't read Loose Pearls yet, the link is in the description. Kindle and audiobook right now, paperback and hardcover to follow. Thank you for being here.